and welcome to the second episode of Stories We Could Tell, the Mavericks FANcast. I'm your host, Mark Potter, and today I have a co-host. How are you doing, Pat?
I'm doing great, Mark. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing a lot better. I mean, I can
you
walk.
Can walk again.
I can walk almost like a normal human being now.
Progress.
Right. For those that don't know, Pat is a recent Mavericks convert. We'll go over her story, what it's like to discover the Mavericks in 2021 and become slightly addicted, as well as a special water bottle that she had as a souvenir from a recent concert. Yeah, we'll get to that.
Oh, great.
We'll hold off on that. The Mavericks have just started touring again after a short break of about a week. Tomorrow night, the 14th, they'll be in Louisville, Kentucky at the Brown Theater. The following night, they'll be at the Blue Gate Performing Arts Center, and I'm assuming you say to Shipshewana, Indiana. Please don't shoot me. I'm just a poor boy. The July 16th, they'll be at the Mystic Lake Casino Hotel in Prior Lake, Minnesota. And their next concert after that is at the River Spirit Casino Resort in Tulsa, Oklahoma on July 21st.
And we are so happy about that.
That's right, Pat, because we'll be there. I mean, you, some other friends. Maybe there'll be some Mavericks carpool karaoke.
Well, we are going to be living on Tulsa time.
Right. Of course, I might be the only one who takes part in that, but we'll see. We'll see. And later on, after Tulsa, there'll be more dates across the United States in July and August before the band moves on to Europe and Canada in the fall. And as always go to themavericksband.com for all the latest ticket and concert date information. It's all one word, themavericksband.com. In other news, 2 cruises have now been announced for early next year. The Sandy Beaches cruise from January 15th to the 22nd, which will depart from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The Mavericks will be part of this, along with other acts like Delbert McClinton, the Band of Heathens, Seth Walker, the McCrary Sisters, and Red Young. And if you're interested in finding out more, head over to sandybeachescruises.com. And the following month in February 2023, the Outlaw Country Cruise 7 is scheduled to leave from Miami, Florida, and that'll be from February 21st until the 27th. Some of the acts on the lineup for that cruise besides the Mavericks include Rosie Flores, the Super Suckers, Steve Earle and the Dukes, Lucinda Williams, and Carlene Carter. For more information on that cruise, head over to outlawcountrycruise.com for more information and to get in on the pre-sale, which is happening now. Since the first episode of Stories We Could Tell was posted 2 weeks ago, there's been several listeners have written in or commented with their support. For instance, Hillary Shaman wrote, "Well done, Mark Potter. So glad I could finally find time to listen to the whole podcast. I love everything about it. Your pace is great. Your story content is fun to listen to. And song highlight gives great insight and history. Great. Gonna love following you." Dixie Morris wrote in, "I don't know where to start. The amount of work and effort you put into just establishing the podcast, the email, YouTube channel would overwhelm me. I love your rhythm and style in speaking, inclusion of background information, different versions of the featured song that began your obsession, and the blooper bonus at the very end after the title music was a fun surprise. Carpool karaoke in Tulsa is going to happen. Ready for the next episode." Well, Dixie, it is, believe me, it is a lot of work setting up a podcast. I mean, I'm still trying to figure this all out. And if you enjoyed that blooper bonus, there might be a blooper episode at some point in the future that have to be X-rated and 21 and over. No kids allowed.
Yeah, it's a scary thought.
Oh, believe me. All right, let's see. Lynn Miller wrote in. She said, "This is so cool. So proud of you to get this together. Your knowledge and love for this band has finally found its place. Only took 30 years, I guess." Let's see. Judy, hi. Well done. Can't wait for more. Thank you for making this ride even more. Thanks, Judy. Maria Carroll wrote in from California. "This is great. Well done." And as the last episode I described my Mavericks origin story, Edwina Lambert wrote in sharing hers. She says, "As a young adult, I was at work. I think the year was 1994. At work, they would play the radio over the loudspeaker, and while I was working, I kid you not, I stopped dead in my tracks. I heard this song come over the loudspeaker. It was Oh What a Thrill. I stood still in awe of this beautiful song. I asked my coworker, what band is this? She said, the Mavericks. I've got their CD. I'll record it on the tape for you. So she dubbed it on the cassette tape, gave it to me, and I loved every song on it. I was fascinated by the fact I didn't want to skip any of the songs. That album, of course, was Water Crying Shame. I still listen to it to this day, along with the rest of the great music they made since then. I've never stopped being a fan of the music. They're absolutely amazing, she says with 3 exclamation points. My musical world changed forever that day and met so many people through my love for this music. And that last part is quite true, which leads me to my co-host for today, Pat Bradshaw. I met for the first time at her first Mavericks concert last year. Where was that, Pat?
That was about 30 miles from my house, amazingly enough, in Oklahoma City at the Tower Theater. And it was the day after my birthday. It was October the 8th. So it was my birthday present to myself.
See, you in your short time as a fan, you've done more than I did in the first 20 years of mine.
I'm retired now. I had the opportunity. Retirement turned out to be such a good deal.
I keep hearing about that. So how did you discover the Mavericks?
It's been 11 months, so that's how long I have known about them. Prior to that, I was apparently living under a rock. I was looking at my Facebook feed, and one of my childhood friends, a former classmate, and one of his friends shared a couple of Mavericks videos on Facebook. And I just sort of casually clicked on, especially on the first video, on Danny's video. He didn't post very much. He was usually in Facebook jail. So I just clicked on him out of curiosity to see what it was. I didn't recognize the name that was showing on the YouTube, banner. And I'm pretty sure, kind of like Edwina was talking about, I just stopped dead in my tracks. I'm pretty sure my jaw dropped open, and I listened, and then I clicked on the other one, and I listened, and I played them back and forth and back and forth. Those 2 videos, it was Back in Your Arms Again and Come Unto Me. And I kept rewatching them, and just like probably almost all of you people out there who discovered them the first time, I was just, who are these guys? Wow, who are these guys? And how can I not know about them already? How did I not ever hear about them before? So for me, it was instant. I didn't have to grow into them. The minute I heard them, I really was just crazy about the music. And I remember I commented to Danny and Jack on their Facebook posts, and I said something like, this band sounds like country meets mariachi meets Zydeco. I don't even know how to describe them, but I love the sound. It's such a big band sound. And I said something like, and I think I might be developing a crush on the lead singer, And of course, I know ladies out there, we've all been there. We know that. And that was, of course, my reaction. And then based on my comments, my friend then told me briefly that, the Mavericks had been around for, 30 something years. And then also told me I needed to check out Raul Malo because he had a successful solo career. And so I shared both of their videos on my Facebook page, and then a former colleague of mine commented that her favorite Mavericks song is Oh, What a Thrill. So I immediately went and checked that out. So basically within about 15 minutes, I had watched 3 of what I would consider Mavericks classics, in terms of both the video and the music. And I was just totally blown away by the huge sound of the band and by the vocals. And, like most Mavericks fans, I've loved music my whole life. Mark, like you, I was a band kid. I was in band for 8 years in school. I love all kinds of instruments. I especially love trumpets because I played a cornet. But I had never in my life had such, I guess I would say, a visceral reaction to any band or any musician than what happened when I first heard the Mavericks. And nothing else had ever just grabbed me so immediately and so overwhelmingly, basically, just like from trying to describe it, and probably Edwina too, and many of the rest of the folks who are going to listen to this. It's impossible to describe that experience to anyone who isn't a Mavericks fan, because nobody else will get it. If they're not a Mavericks fan, and if they have not heard and loved the music, then they won't understand having that reaction, but that's what happens to a lot of us. So kind of like you did, Mark, I went a little bit crazy, especially for the next few weeks. I basically disappeared into sort of the black hole of YouTube and Spotify and Facebook and everything, trying to research and soak up. Basically I was playing catch up with, they had more than 30 years of music out there and, band history. And so I was basically being a Maverick sponge.
I would say you went a little bit more crazier than I did.
Well, maybe I just did it faster.
Yeah, you did it more in a compressed form of time than I did.
Yeah, yours was more of a slow meltdown.
Yeah.
Mine was more like an explosion. And, while I was digging around, I found Raul's Facebook page. And, of course, this was, last year, so it was in 2021. And I started going back through all of his posts during 2020, during the COVID lockdown and those, long drought months after that. And, he talked about keeping all those young musicians safe under his roof, during the COVID lockdown. And they were making those quarantines videos and trying to figure out ways to entertain the fans. And, he was urging the fans to, try to stay safe and trying to explain social distancing and that sort of thing. And, basically I realized that this man with this incredible, beautiful voice was also a really, really good human being. And so that attracted me even more to the band than just the music itself, was kind of starting to understand the character of the people who were involved in making the music. So that was a fascinating experience too. And, just like so many other people have said, it was basically life-changing. It's not just the music. Obviously that's in a class all by itself, but, I've made trips that I wouldn't have made. I've gone to concerts. I've met people I would never, ever have had an opportunity to meet under other circumstances. And that includes you. And, that first show that you and Shirley Hill, long time Mavericks fans, both of you, were kind enough, once you knew that was going to be my first show. You guys invited me to join you for dinner before the show, and you told me lots of your own stories about encountering the Mavericks way back when, and, kind of filled me in on a lot of Mavericks history. And so basically I came home from that first show and then sat down and started buying tickets as fast as I could for other shows that were in the region. So I know I'm not the only person that's done that. That should sound familiar to a lot of people.
Be honest, do you have your credit card on hold at every venue within a 400-mile radius?
Well, I've considered it. I tried to just give it to Mavericks and tell them to just, book me for everything, but they were going to spend the money in the record store or something, so that didn't work.
Yeah, like, oh, wait a minute, because remember in Kansas City, I saw that $5,000 Prisoners 45 I wanted.
Yeah, no, I'm not buying you that.
I think anyone.
You're out of luck on that one.
I want my own on that one. That'll be a white whale for the rest of my life.
No joke.
Someday. But yeah.
Someday.
But yeah, I was going to ask you, you brought it up that you've never had a passion for any other band or artist like you have for the Mavericks?
Not like this. There are lots of artists that I liked, and there are lots of bands that I like. I grew up with the Beatles and, so in that era, there's music that you can't not love, but there was never anything that just stopped me dead in my tracks. And that's, I know a lot of fans have had that experience, that you just hear it and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, who are these people? How did I not know about this band? And I still don't believe that everybody in the world doesn't know about this band. So, but I guess for those of us who want to buy tickets, it's probably just as well, huh?
Yeah, it's better off. Stay away. So, now see, like someone like you grew up when the Beatles were active.
Yes.
That's just, I can't imagine what that was like. Because by the time I came around, they had already split up. I was born in 1974, so that's 4 years after the Beatles broke up. And,
yeah, they were part of my music formative years, basically, from I literally remember listening to them on a transistor radio, honest to God. That's how old I am. But, those things are called transistor radios.
Yeah.
They're very small. But that obviously that music was fabulous. Beach Boys. There were all kinds of wonderful bands back in the 60s that I loved their music, but nothing ever grabbed me the way the Mavericks music grabbed me. And I think it's the combination of the instrumentation, which I absolutely love. That's a big band. They have a wonderful sound, and they have all of those different instruments, and they use them all. And the musicians that they have in the band are all individually so talented that when they get together and play, whether it's live or on a record, the sound is just fabulous. And then we have, Raul's voice, which is fairly good and can also stop you in your tracks. And so all of those things together, it's just like a perfect storm for my particular taste, I guess. But it sure has caught my attention.
Yeah, I mean, I remember a few years ago at Green Hall, I think it was in 2018, the Saturday night, I was standing on the side where they have the benches along the exterior walls, and the Mavericks were doing "Oh What a Thrill," and for whatever reason, in that moment, I started crying. It just in that moment, that song just hit me. Like I'd never done that before. Like, oh, wow.
I get it totally. It's happened to me at a couple of shows too. So yeah. I get it. It's just, and I had the opportunity to go to a solo show also, and that was also an incredible experience and a totally different experience. Oh, yeah. But it's the same thing. If it's great music and it's something that really reaches out and grabs you, then you might as well just give up and accept it. Yeah, it's just the way it is.
Just give in. Just give in, give up.
Yep,
don't fight it.
The fans explained to me early on that, I'm a Mavaholic and you might as well just accept it. So I did.
I don't know if you're a big Star Trek fan like I am, but the Borg have a saying, resistance is futile.
Oh, yeah. Resistance is futile. And the truth is, I did not even try.
No. I was the same way, like,
nope.
Okay, all right, I'm coming.
Yep.
So,
yeah, it was just, for me, it was just how fast can I order those CDs? How many tickets can I afford to buy?
Right.
Which shows do I want to drive to? How many T-shirts can I hang in my closet? All that kind of stuff. It was.
I can eat top ramen and drink bottled water for a while. I'll be okay.
Exactly.
Peanut butter and PB&J.
I'm married to an accountant, and he has been very patient with me. Wow. I know he thinks I've lost my mind, but
we won't get into that. I'm sure there's been a few looks your way like, you did what?
Yeah, he, like I said, he's not a huge music fan, so, he's been incredibly patient and just laughs and shakes his head. That's all he can do, the poor man.
Right. Which, that reminds me, there's a Potty Mouth Teddy Bears cartoon you need to watch.
I might have already.
Maybe you have.
Maybe I have.
For anyone who doesn't know, about 10 years ago, on the old Raul Malo forum, I put together some cartoons called the Potty Mouth Teddies, and they're little cartoon teddy bears. There was a husband and wife, and the husband couldn't understand the wife's obsession with Raul Malo. He's like, why are you following him all over Southern California with these other women? Like, what goes on at these concerts anyway? And it's just, I posted it on the forum and people were laughing like, it's so true, And that first one ends with, yeah, your wife went to this concert and had this reaction, but she came home to you.
I'm sure that there are a lot of spouses of Mavericks fans who get that.
Yeah, those were fun to do, but I can't post those on certain places on Facebook and online because of the excessive use of colorful metaphors.
X-rated.
Yes.
That's because they are X-rated cartoons, Mark. I've seen some of those.
Yes, and of course I was laughing like a 12-year-old boy while I was making them too. And
you are a 12-year-old boy.
I know. Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know that, any guy anywhere is always 12 years old, no matter how cool he tries to act. He's 12 years old. Poop and fart jokes are always funny.
and hopeless. You guys are hopeless.
I know, but you still deal with us somehow.
We do. We do.
All right, so it's a little off topic, but anyway. So, what was the build up to that first show at the Tower Theater for you like? Were you losing sleep at night? Were you not eating? What were you doing?
Well, I was crazy excited, that's for sure. I had already found the Mavericks Fans Unite page and had started exploring and getting to know some people that way, including you and Shirley Hill. And everybody kept saying, you know, you're just not going to believe it. You're just not going to believe it. And I kept thinking, well, it can't really be that good. Well, yeah, it really was. And I was up in the balcony for that one. That was still when it was a little bit COVID scary and we were wearing masks and, you know, all those kinds of things. And so I thought the balcony might be safer rather than being down on the floor. You know, now I much prefer to be down on the floor where you can be kind of in the middle of all of it. But even from up in the balcony, it was just a fabulous experience. And just like everybody has talked about, I've heard lots of people talk about this, after you've been to a Mavericks show, you're kind of on a high for days, weeks, months. I don't know. It doesn't wear off right away.
30
And
years,
so I remember coming home and yeah, exactly. I remember coming home and staying awake half the night. My brain was still firing on all cylinders. And, you know, I had taken a few videos on my phone and I listened to those again. And so, yeah, it lived up to my expectations and I think probably exceeded them. And if I had been able to be down on the floor, then it would have been even more fabulous. But I was certainly not disappointed. And like I said, after I had one show under my belt, then I immediately sat down at the computer and started looking to see where else they were going to be and, you know, what was going to be within a reasonable drive because I didn't want to mess with the airlines at that point and, you know, budget-wise and all that. So, I was able to quickly buy some more tickets and hit the road for other shows. It was great.
Okay, so what's a reasonable drive? Like 8 hours, 10 hours? What's the farthest you would drive?
Not gone. I was going to say, well, I do love road trips, so I'll start with that. But I don't think I've driven any further than about 7 or 8 hours. I've been from Oklahoma City. I've been down as far as Helotes, and I have been, of course, to the show in Austin. And you were my co-pilot to go up to Kansas City, and I've been to Dallas. That's an easy trip from Oklahoma City. Mark, we're lucky. We live in the middle of the country. So depending on where the band lands, there are typically going to be a lot of venues right in our area where we can, you know, jump in a vehicle and be there within, you know, a day's drive or less than a day's drive. Yeah. So that's an advantage that we have where we are. And probably the only better place to be would be up on the East Coast where the states are small and the driving distances are small.
Yeah, and where there's a lot of solo shows that take place and Christmas shows and the Halloween shows in Terrytown. You know, the shows that I would love to be at someday, but.
Well, and then they just did that big run up in the Northeast, and they had a whole bunch of shows stacked one right after the other. And, you know, fans who were able to be in that area could go to multiple shows without having to do a whole lot of traveling. So, you know, that Indian Ranch is on my bucket list, like it is for a lot of people. And, you know, maybe next year or the year after I'll make it up there. And I would like to try to stay long enough if they stack a bunch of shows like they did this year to see several shows while I'm in the Northeast. I used to live up there, so it would be fun to go back again.
Yeah, meanwhile, I'm celebrating, how long has it been now? Since they played in Fort Smith, since 96. It's the last time they played in Fort Smith. I mean, Raul did 2 solo shows here in 2010. I was at the second one. But the last time the full Mavericks band was here, it was the Music for All Occasions tour. I've got a T-shirt from that concert, and
that's a long time ago.
Yeah, and I couldn't go because I worked at radio and I was low man on the totem pole. So a bunch of people I worked with, they went. And I heard about it, and you know, they came back. Yeah, the show opened with the sound of thunder, and they went into Here Comes the Rain. I'm like, shut up! I don't want to hear about it.
Didn't get to go.
No.
Yeah.
But you know, that was. Yeah. You know, it only took till 2012 for me to actually see the band live. And, you know, the first song I played was Back in Your Arms Again. When they, you know, the first show back, they opened with that. And I think they played like 4 songs off in time in a row. And it was in 3rd and Lindsley, that club in Nashville. There was just a large gathering of fans from the forum, and it was an incredible weekend. I mean, we still talk about it 10 years, like in Kansas City, me and Moose, Ken Whiteside, we were talking about it. We were lucky enough to be there and see the sound check, 2 concerts. We heard In Time like months before it was released.
That is so cool.
It was just like this magical time. I mean, and my favorite part was actually the Saturday night after the show was over. Just the band and fans were mingling around like no one wanted to say, okay, I'm going. Like we're just hanging around telling stories, shaking hands, and almost had my hand crushed by Paul Deacon when he shook my hand. I mean, that dude, I know when you shake his hand, he's a carpenter. You can tell he's been around carpentry his life. He's like, it was just a great hang and mingle. Like, and then finally it's like, okay, I gotta go. Okay. And then you slink away going, okay.
Well, the shows that I've been to, the social part of the show, where you're either meeting people that you haven't seen since the previous show, or you're meeting people that you have met online but not in person and so forth. The social part of it is so much fun, both before and after the shows. Anybody that's not yet been to a live show, when you do get to do that, you'll find that that's as big a part of the experience as actually the concert itself. The people are just fabulous. Mavericks fans are so much fun. It's just this big crazy family of people. And so when you are at a show, if you're waiting in line somewhere, you're going to visit with people and meet people you will enjoy and stay in touch with. If you're after the show, the people who run the venue basically have to chase Mavericks fans out at the end.
Yeah.
Because they're all still standing around visiting and shooting the breeze and so forth.
Yeah,
so
they want to go home too.
Part of it is. No, exactly. I mean, it's just they're like people. We have to mop this place. Right. Go away.
Get out. Leave.
But that's for folks that have not yet gotten to go to a live show. Make sure when you do that you let the folks on the Mavericks fan pages know that you're going to the show, which show it's going to be. People will reach out to you. That's been one of the most fun experiences of being a new fan, is having all of these people take me under their wings and teach me things, and, meeting up with people at different venues and that sort of thing. I've made friends that I hope to keep the rest of my life. And so, that's a big piece of being a Mavericks fan. And it's one of my favorite parts about being a Mavericks fan. And that's another thing that you can't necessarily explain adequately to somebody who's a civilian, basically somebody who doesn't know the crazy Mavericks world. Friends and family members don't necessarily get that, but people who are experiencing the world of all things Mavericks, they get it.
Yeah, and for me, for being there at your first show, it was exciting to see someone who was about to walk in, never having experienced his band live before, and
was I bouncing? Because I kind of think I might have been sort of bouncing.
Yeah, I think you bounced down the staircase after the show. Like you had this big smile on her face. And I was thinking, oh yeah, she's gone. She's been infected.
Yeah,
she's got the virus now.
Oh yeah,
but yeah,
I did. I was humming big time.
I remember when we ate dinner beforehand, and we're there with Shirley Hill and her sister, and we're swapping stories, and you're just soaking all this in, and I'm realizing, holy crap, I'm a senior citizen now. We've got this long history. Remember when we did this? Remember when you almost did that? Remember when they did that?
And you guys it was so fun to listen to the stories from a long time ago, because I've been frantically trying to do my homework and learn all about the band and all about the history, and, who'd been with the band at which points in time. And it's still all really blurred in my brain, and it kind of still is. But
yeah,
you guys were you had some great stories, and that's kind of the whole point of this podcast, is that almost every Mavericks fan has stories to tell about either their experience at discovering the Mavericks, or, converting somebody else to become a Mavericks fan, or I was trying to think of a polite way to put that.
Oh, come on, you can say
or their experiences at shows and people they've met, and, different kinds of favorite music and those kinds of things. Everybody that's a Mavericks fan in some way, shape, or form has stories to tell. So you're going to have all kinds of fun things on your podcast because there's going to be a zillion things that people can tell you about and stories to relay. It'll be great.
Oh, yeah, and that's one of the reasons to do this. I mean, this was an idea I had a month ago, and I was thinking, okay, if I did it, what would be the point? I thought, and then it hit me. It's been 30 years since I've been into this band, and I've seen the majority of the history of this band, and you talk about that and meet other people who did things that I had to miss out on. People who were in the fan club back in the 90s that I, for some reason, wasn't ready for that kind of commitment back then, I guess. So I never joined. To TV shows that they were on that I watched, and someone will say, "Yeah, I was there." Like, wait, what? You talk about that, and sometimes
and there's a lot we can get from each other. Even just on either the Mavericks, the MFU page, or Myra's Mavericks memorabilia page, which you and I both belong to and enjoy information there. That's another place where people can share Mavericks history and stories, and you've put lots of wonderful things on Myra's page that are kind of a deeper dive into things that are related to the band and former members and fun things from your collection and that sort of thing. But all of that, while it's online, it's still also fun for people to have a chance to talk to you and talk to you even on this podcast like we're doing, so that you can ask questions and you can share your experiences, and fans can do the same. And it's, that's part of the Mavericks. Everybody that I have encountered in the Mavericks community is really generous with their information and their photos and their videos and their stories and their memories and that sort of thing. And so, this will be an opportunity to do that for a really long time, I think, because I can't imagine ever running out of Maverick stories in this group. So,
yeah. Oh, and I've got to say something. I guess you'd call it a disclaimer. There's been a couple times over the years where people have assumed that I have an in with the band. I don't. I'm just a fan who, has this memorabilia collection that I share online. I don't have Raul Malo's home number. We don't hang out on the weekend smoking cigars and, eating singing songs in the backyard. Like, we don't, I met him. I've taken pictures with him. I'm surprised when he remembers my name. Like, wow, okay. But yeah,
that's because you have old stuff you can blackmail him with.
Oh yeah, I've gotten the eye roll when he's seen me coming. Like, oh crap, what is it now?
Yeah, what has he got now? Right, exactly.
But yeah, it's just there's been times where people thought that I had a way to get like a personal connection with him, like we were best buddies. Like, nope, that's not true. I mean,
nope, just a very loyal fan and one who has spent a whole lot of money accumulating his treasures from the Mavericks. Well, you have wonderful, weird things in your collection.
Well, I mean, part of that, yeah, I've spent money on it, but it's also connections I made with other collectors, people who have been in the band,
yes.
People who have worked with the band. Sometimes you make trades, with other, you find someone has something, you work a trade out. I've been surprised too, sometimes just what someone has been willing to share is because I guess over the years, by sharing what I have, people have come to know who I am and what I'm about and what I enjoy. I'm not someone that just pops up out of random going, hey, looking for this rare record that came out in South America back in 1996, and everyone's like, who the is that?
No, we know that you have a very large stash of very strange and unusual things. And if there's any good reason why Raul and the band would recognize you, it's because you have got their old stuff.
Yeah, like
really old stuff.
Like when we were in Kansas City at Vinyl Renaissance, and I handed Raul that Tomboys 45 from 1984, and he kind of started laughing, and then Eddie Perez started laughing because if you've ever seen the picture sleeve or if anyone's never seen the Tomboys, look them up. I mean, they were from Miami in the mid '80s. They had that Don Johnson Miami Vice. They had that down. You know, the perms, the white sport jackets with the shoulder pads and the bright colored T-shirts. And Eddie Perez was laughing. He pointed out to Jared McDowell like they were like two little kids. Like, hey, check this out. You know, they're laughing at Raul, and he's like,
See, that's what Raul sees you coming and goes, oh man, here comes Potter. What's he going to do to me this time?
Right. I mean,
right.
But it could have been worse. There were some things I had in the binder I forgot at the hotel room, so it could have been worse. So, another thing is, let's talk about the difference between discovering the band in 1992 and 2021. See, for me back then, I didn't know anybody else that listened to the Mavericks. As far as I knew, I was the only person I knew that had one of their records. You know, back then, if I was going to see them on TV, I'd have to just randomly catch a commercial or maybe see it in the TV guide when that was still a thing. You know, I worked in radio. That was one way I kept up with, you know, different releases that were coming out. You know, it was like Billboard or Radio and Records. They would have a list of upcoming releases, and I'd see, oh, the Mavericks are going to be on Red Hot and Country with Matchbox with Dwayne Eddy and Carl Perkins. Okay. If I didn't work in the radio, I wouldn't know that. I'd probably miss it. What TV shows I managed to catch, I'd happen to record on VCR, and that was it. I mean, and I worked, let me take that back. At the radio station, there were a couple other guys who were into the band, but it wasn't anything like the community that we're involved in now. I mean, back then I felt like a lone man on an island with this. I discovered this band that was a secret, like no one else knows about. And then, you know, because I mentioned the Mavericks and like, who? Basketball team? Like, ugh. Of course, we still get that today.
We still get it today.
We got that on that Uber driver. Remember in Kansas City? He thought we were talking about the Dallas Mavericks. Like, no. But
yeah.
But back then, like, I had to scrounge to find stuff. And now,
well, I had it easy.
I know.
You know, I had it easy.
Yeah.
Well, I had two advantages. For one thing, they already had more than 30 years of music out there, right?
Yeah.
And you were there in the early days when they were just producing things. So an album would come out and then eventually another album would come out. Well, when I came in as a fan, so much was already out there that it was sort of an overload for me.
Oh, yeah.
But I had access to all the wonderful videos on YouTube and Spotify and, you know, the information that was on their Facebook pages and so forth. So I had everything I could possibly soak in terms of both music and also learning about the band and the history and, you know, previous members and kind of the various phases that they had gone through and how the band had changed and grown and sort of morphed over the decades and that sort of thing. I got to soak that all up just in a real short period of time. And I kept thinking to myself, part of me was disappointed that I didn't know about them 30 years ago. But another part of me was thinking how lucky I was that I came in at a time when I could actually get my hands on all of that and had it to listen to and to watch and really enjoy instead of having to wait impatiently. Now that we're all waiting for them to produce another album or two, I'm starting to get the feeling of what that's like, knowing that one of these days there'll be another album coming out, but we have to wait for that. But as a new fan, I had it really, really easy, and I know that. And it's a little bit like if you're an avid reader and you discover an author that you like, and they've already written a complete series, maybe 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 books, and you get to read the whole series one right after the other, as opposed to having to wait one book at a time, you know, for every couple of years something to come out. And that's more like the experience that you had, I would think.
Yeah, like when I worked in radio, there was a guy named Chuck Brown. He produced the morning show on the country station while I was next door producing the morning show on the top 40 CHR station, basically the pop station. Played crap like Britney Spears and Backstreet Boys. Anyway, he came in one day and he told me he was down at the Central Mall in Fort Smith back when there were 2 record stores in there way back then. And he said they had this Mavericks CD called "It's Now It's Live." Like they had a couple copies left. You want him, call them and see if they can hold it for you. And I called them and they had sold out. And this was almost a year after that had been released in Canada. Like for that we never knew about it until Chuck just goes down to the local record store and randomly, oh, what is this? There's another Mavericks record.
I'll be darned.
And, and then the 2003 album, I had no idea that had even been released until I just saw it at a local record store. Like, thumbing through the Mavericks. Oh, what's this? There's something new. I had no idea it had even been released because, it was, back then, like anything you find was like a little gold nugget. Like, oh, I found it. Here's something else. Now it's just, you just walk into this warehouse filled with all this information that's just waiting for you. Like, welcome to the Mavericks. Here's everything that we've collected over the last 30 years. And now it's all for you. Enjoy it.
Yes. and for the most part, it's free.
Yeah.
I pay a little dinky amount for my Spotify membership every month, and, all that stuff on YouTube is free. So, all I have to do is buy CDs when I want to buy CDs, but, I still have access to all of those things, and especially the video stuff. I wish that a lot more of their things would go on DVDs, some of the shows that they've done on live streams and that sort of thing. It would be fun to have DVDs of those so that you could, watch those, but over the years and have them convenient and that sort of thing. But it's still, I as a new fan, I can't think of a more fun experience than it was like discovering a treasure chest, of this incredible body of work that I had no idea even existed. And then all of a sudden there it all was, and I could get my hands on it. So and I had it much easier than you guys that discovered them way a long time ago.
I feel like the grouchy old man on the porch. Like back in my day, we had to scrounge around for the Mavericks we wanted. We couldn't just walk in and bam, here it is.
Yeah, but that's the way it is now, Grandpa.
So I guess officially we can call you a Mallow stalker now. I mean, it's been a year. You've been to how many concerts now? 50 or so? And with more?
No. Oh, come on. I have been, including the Tulsa show, which is coming up in a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah.
So including the Tulsa show, I will have been to 9 Mavericks shows in 11 months, and also 1 Raul solo show. So I think that's pretty good to get under my belt for the first, not quite a year.
Yeah, that's okay.
If I had been to, 3 times that many, I would be perfectly happy with that. 10 times that many, I would be perfectly happy with that. But, there are things like budgets and so forth. So we do what we have to.
I'm telling you, if I could find one of those old Mallow Stalker shirts, I'll get you one because you've earned it. Because
I don't stalk them. I admire them. It's different.
Oh, okay. Admire from a distance. Okay.
Well, I'd get close if I could, but I do admire them. Yes, I'm not a scary fan.
Hey, this isn't that type of podcast. Okay.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
So, should we talk about Kansas City the first night at Knuckleheads?
If we must.
So I was Pat's co-pilot on the way to Knuckleheads in Kansas City 2 months ago now. Wow, it's already 2 months ago. Jeez.
I know.
In May, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, it was my first Knuckleheads. I'd heard about it. So we booked all 3 shows, and a bunch of other friends met us up there, and we had a heck of a trip to Kansas City. But Mark, you you and several other people were witness to basically the most embarrassing experience of my entire life.
Okay, so this was my first trip to actually being at Knuckleheads too. I've watched the live streams from there for 12 years, and finally I'm here. It's like finally getting to Mecca, fall on the knees and kiss the dirt. And
it's a great venue.
oh,
It is a great venue.
oh
It
yeah.
is pure Mavericks venue. I mean,
And
it just looks like a place Mavericks fans ought to be.
the crowd. I mean, the crowd was singing along to every song, even the new stuff.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Oh
I
yeah.
haven't been. That's the first time I've experienced that at a show. Like the drunk dudes behind me, they were singing, "Back in Your Arms Again." I go, wow, these guys are drunk, but they know the new stuff. It's not.
Oh
They
yeah.
know
Oh yeah. For sure.
they're not casual fans. They don't. They know more than just the top 40 songs from the 90s. But yeah. So I mean, that first night of Knuckleheads, it was humid. It was steamy. I mean, I was up in the
It was a
balcony.
million degrees.
Oh yeah. I mean, I was
It
up in
was a
the
million degrees.
I was up in the balcony. The sun was still up, so I'm sweating already. Did you notice how narrow the stairs were getting up to the balcony?
They're terrifying.
I know.
Yes, they are.
They're one way only. I mean, there's no way two people can pass each other at the same time. But get up there to the.
Well, Mark's right. It was crazy hot that
yeah.
night, and I had general admission tickets, and I wanted to be at the stage, my first Knuckleheads and all that. So I did get there really, really early, like several other people did, and we stood in line out in a million degrees and bright sunshine and all that. And I met some wonderful people in line, like you always do at a Mavericks show. And in this case, I was standing in line with Christine Nichols and her friends and family, and we had a wonderful visit. And we kind of traded standing under umbrellas and switched back and forth, sitting in air-conditioned vehicles and everything. But it was still crazy, crazy hot. So before I explain what happened, I will just say, people, when you go to a Mavericks show that is outside and it's really, really hot weather, hydrate, people.
Oh yeah.
Hydrate. This is a really important thing to do. And I thought I had done that well enough, but apparently I had not. And so, I was right at the stage. I was right up on the rail, kind of basically between Raul and Jerry Dale. And it was a great location. I enjoyed every bit of the show. I was singing at the top of my lungs and having a fabulous time the whole evening. And then just about the time the finale started, I started feeling a little kind of queasy, and then things got a little bit fuzzy. And then the next thing I knew, the fans behind me were standing me back up to a vertical position. And so basically, for the first time in my life, I fainted. And I chose the middle of a freaking Mavericks finale to do it. And, it sort of put a whole new twist on Bring Me Down, let me tell you.
I mean, and ironically, that was the song they were
funny
doing
now.
too. Yeah.
That it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny now, but at the time
Right.
I was just mortified, and I was also still really woozy, but I knew that I had, basically caused a disruption. And, I would have rather fainted in front of, Queen Elizabeth or the Pope or something like that instead of, zonking out right in front of Raul.
I mean, the Queen Elizabeth, she doesn't have a voice like Raul, so who cares?
No, exactly. I wouldn't mind disrupting the Queen. I wouldn't mind disrupting the Pope, but I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. But all the fans around me were just fabulous. A really nice lady named Sarah Henderson that I had just met that night, she was standing beside me through the show, and I guess she sort of saw me start to fold, and she grabbed for me, and then the people behind me caught me. So I really had a soft landing. I mean, I didn't, get hurt or anything, but Sarah kept me in a death grip, making sure I wasn't going to go down again. And Sherry Welch was standing just a little bit in front of me and a little bit to my left, and she's shorter than I am, and she didn't even realize that anything was going on until the way Sherry described it. She said, the first thing I knew was Raul came charging at us, sticking out a bottle of water toward me. Yeah. And that was when Sherry figured out something was going on. But anyhow, the main thing I would say is the Knucklehead staff, those people were just fantastic. Yes. Obviously, I was not their first fainting spell. And so they got me outside to one of the tables that had plenty of air, and, these cold, wet towels just sort of magically appeared, and more bottled water, and, some really nice fan came running over and had brought me some orange juice from the bar, and somebody else came running out and brought me a candy bar. I mean, it was just that, it was a really, positive Mavericks experience if it was, humiliating for me otherwise. And then one of my trip buddies, Dixie Morris, I'm pretty sure she might have just vaulted off of the balcony at Knuckleheads because she was down there so fast.
Yeah, let me tell you, she was up there sitting next to us, and she was gone. Like, where did Dixie go? She just...
Yeah, I don't even know how she got there that fast because they had barely gotten me out to the table when Dixie was right there. That woman is a mama bear. I'm telling you, if you ever get sick or need anything, she is the one you want right beside you. But, after the show was over, people that I had met before and during the show came out and checked on me, and people were hugging me, and, I looked like death warmed over. The band sent somebody out to check on me, and they sent me a guitar pick. So I have a guitar pick as a treasure, from my adventure. And so you guys, you and Sherry and my roommate buddies, Dixie and Myra Dean and Melody Hunt, you all got me back to the hotel. And, most importantly, everybody made sure that the sacred water bottle from Raul got back to the hotel with me, Yeah. Of course, we, for the next few days, treated it with all the appropriate reverence that it deserves.
Yes,
and,
it had a place of honor in the hotel room.
It did, and there might have been some discussions about, sweaty Raul DNA on the bottle and that sort of thing, cloning and, that kind of stuff. But, everybody got me back, and I was in one piece, and I recovered pretty quickly. Sherry Welch must have been a Girl Scout in her early years or something, because that woman travels with electrolyte powder. I mean, who even thinks of such a thing? But she had electrolyte powder, and so they mixed up Sherry's magic elixir and poured that down me when we got back to the hotel, and within a few hours I was human again. But my biggest lesson, besides learning that a person does need to hydrate before those kinds of conditions, but I guess it was really embarrassing, and it was funny, and I'll never live it down among my travel group. But the main thing I figured out is that Mavericks fans are some of the best people on the planet, and my trip buddies were just awesome. So if I had to humiliate myself, at least I was with really good people. It turned out to be funny, and I just don't recommend it, and I'm sure the band would appreciate it if people did not cause disruptions, when they're trying to do their finale.
Like, really? Now the show's almost over and you do this? Jesus.
Exactly. I know. I mean, all I needed was just a few more minutes, But, 99% of the show, I felt fabulous.
Yeah, I remember from up in the balcony, the first thing I knew was Raul holding out a bottle of water to somebody in the front of the stage. Couldn't really see what was going on. And Dixie bolts, and Mara was like, did Dixie just go down there? Like, what the hell? Like, we really didn't know what happened. And then I think somehow we found out that someone had passed out, and it was you, and like, what? Is she okay? What the, and then, the band's still going. I was like, but
well, I was in very capable hands. I'm telling you, the Knuckleheads people, they have a science to it. It was like a level 1 trauma center or something. They were so efficient, and they got me out of there with causing as little remaining disruption as possible. They got me out of there and got me all sorted out, and then Dixie came down and made sure that people were taking care of me, and they kept trying to call the EMS people and put me in an ambulance. I'm like, oh God, no.
We talked about that.
Really just fine.
We talked about that. Maybe she needs to go to ER.
No. It was embarrassing enough.
And then, after the show, we come out and we made our way down, and you're at the table, and Dixie put me in charge of fanning you off, and you had the orange juice, the candy bar, and I think Sherry Welsh helped you walk to the bathroom, and
I had lots of people caring for me. It was it's not like I've ever done this before, so I don't have any experience with what it's like to faint, but I'm not going to do it again.
Yeah, I mean,
I will do my best not to disrupt any more performances.
I mean, at least you were at a concert where other fans would take care of you. I mean, I've been to some where if you passed out, like, oh well, leave it up to the.
No, I mean, I was well cared for.
Yeah, I mean, it was remember, even at the Q&A, Vinyl Renaissance, Raul made reference to it. Where
Yes,
he said something about, our fans wait in line for hours, some pass out, and then he looked over at you.
Yeah, well, yeah, I did. I had an opportunity to meet Raul and visit with him briefly at Max's jam session in Austin when we were down there for the ACL shows,
Yeah.
and he was very gracious, and he did, we let's just say we discussed the incident, but he was very gracious about it and laughing, and he said, "It happens, don't worry about it." And I said, "I swear to God, I will never do that again. I will never disrupt your show again." But he was very nice about it. He's a nice man.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he's not going to stop the show like, really? You're passing out?
No, he just basically shoved a water bottle in my face.
He could have thrown the guitar down and walked off. That's it. The show's over. I'm going home. Wow.
Oh, and then, thank God.
And then everybody like, "Thanks, Pat. Thanks."
Yeah.
But no,
they carried on.
Yeah.
I was thankfully a minor disruption, but it was not anything I cared to do again.
No.
But I was treated really, really well by a whole lot of people, and that's a kind of an important takeaway from being a new Mavericks fan is if you're at one of those venues, you are not around strangers. There are no strangers at a Mavericks show. So that's a fabulous thing to know. And it also made me realize, if I'm traveling by myself somewhere or going to a venue where I don't happen to already know somebody that's going to be there, I won't be the least bit uncomfortable doing that because, I'm going to meet people that I'm going to recognize their names or their faces from the fan pages and that kind of stuff. So it's quite the community. I am impressed with Mavericks fans as a whole, and I think they reflect the spirit of the band. The band is open and welcoming and very inclusive and generous with their fans, and I think Mavericks fans are generous with each other.
Yeah, and you made a memory none of us who were there will ever forget.
Sad but true. Sad but true.
But I have to say that the stream for that night was audio only, so there's no video on the official Mavericks fan page.
Oh, I'm so happy about that.
The other two nights are video, but the first night was just audio. So,
well, I got at least one lucky break, didn't I?
Yeah. I mean,
yeah. The band even sent somebody out to check on me after the show. And that extra step, I thought that was incredibly nice. Besides, giving me the guitar pick, but they just, sent somebody out to make sure I was alive and well. And I thought that was a step way beyond what I would have expected. So
yeah,
it's for people who get a chance to go to those shows, it's just nothing but a positive experience all the way around. You've got to book a show. If you haven't been to one yet, you need to find a way to get to a live show.
And if you want to get a free guitar pick, don't drink water.
I really, and I swear, I had water and I had zero alcohol. No adult beverages were involved.
Right.
It was just too darn hot, and I didn't plan well enough ahead.
Well, I'll tell you.
Lesson learned.
Right?
Lesson learned.
Well, I'll tell you, if you ever go to Green Hall, drink water there too, because that place is a sauna. When they've got there's no air conditioning, it's all wood. And if the sides aren't open, there's a couple ceiling fans, but it's like a sauna in there. Like the last time we were there was someone there who passed out. And the people helped carry him out to the front where the ambulance was waiting. Because he was just, you're in there packed. And there's people like packed in sardines. And this guy, I don't know if he'd been drinking or not, but same thing. He lost consciousness, and then people kind of helped walk him out, help take care of him. But that place is...
Yep.
Man, I love Green Hall, but it has not been modernized, so there's nothing. The luxury of air conditioning does not exist there. So, Pat, thanks for sharing your story on here. Going over how you discovered the Mavericks not quite a year ago, and your first concert experience, and how you've achieved like insane Mallow Stalker status.
I worked hard for that, Mark. I worked hard for that.
Oh, I know you did.
I did indeed.
All right.
Well, I appreciate you having me on here. This was fun. You guys, Mark told me I was going to be his guinea pig for this first try at doing a two-person podcast or two-person fan cast. I think basically what I am is Mark's crash test dummy, but he has editing capability, so he'll clean this up as best he needs to, and
Or so I told
hopefully
you.
it will be. I would encourage any other Mavericks fan to be willing to do it because it's fun and easy, and Mark's easy to talk to. So, and he'll talk you through the process. It's easy.
Yeah. Now that we've experimented with Pat, let her be the guinea pig. How does this work? How do you get this? Okay. Oh man.
We don't quite have it figured out, but he will mash it together somehow or another and carve out the really bad stuff. So,
Maybe.
Thanks again for having me.
Oh, thanks for letting us enjoy you experiencing the band for the first time.
Yeah, it's been a fun experience, and Mark, you were one of my very first people that reached out to me and sort of took me under your Mavericks wing and brought me into the fold, and so I will always appreciate that. You're one of the many generous Mavericks fans that I've met. You and Shirley Hill both adopted me in Oklahoma City for my first show, and I hope we're friends forever.
And that's this week's episode of Stories We Could Tell, a Mavericks FANcast. If you'd like to comment on anything you heard or add to the conversation, there's several ways you can do that. You can write an email at mavericksfancast@gmail.com. The main website for the FANcast is mavericksfancast.podbean.com. You can also find the FANcast on Facebook. There's a Stories We Could Tell, a Mavericks FANcast page available there. And as of today, the podcast is now available on Spotify, Podchaser, and Amazon Music as well. So if you enjoyed this episode, continue to come along and ride with me and listen to the stories we could tell. Hello and welcome to the second episode of Stories We Could Tell of Mavericks. God damn it. All right. Okay. So you're getting behind the scenes now. Edwina Lambert wrote in with her Mavericks origin story, saying it began, Jesus Christ. Yes, it was Jesus Christ when the Mavericks first got together. That's how long they've been along.
It has not been that long. Oh my God, I should have had a drink.
Yeah. I think Raul tried to get Jesus to do a duet.
They do well.
I'm sure they would. Blooper reel. Okay. All right. So that's this week's episode of Stories We Could Tell, a Mavericks FANcast. If you'd like to comment or contact the podcast and tell me how much I blow donkey... Never mind. Okay. Do it again. Yeah, and one of these days, I hope to be as uninhibited as Jerry Del McFadden when he dances. I've never been able to feel that free yet.
I'm not sure Jerry Dale has any joints.
His sort of rubber legs.
His limbs move in many different directions, but he's a treasure.
Yeah, and I always aspire to that. Like, yeah, Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers, whatever. Give me Jerry Del McFadden.
Yeah,
They were okay.
He is a trip.